What is up, everyone? Welcome into another week of the NFL Astrology series featuring the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football tonight, facing off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. My name is Gracey, and I will be walking you through the cosmic lens of this game. This Monday Night Football matchup is going to be the game to watch, obviously, because it's the only game on Monday night. However, the Chiefs have been absolutely destroying it lately, and I think that you guys have all been following along that I'm a little bit biased, and I also tend to get on a little bit of rants or some sort of like pulpit of talking about the Chiefs' history. So while I do try to give you a different view than just the history of the Kansas City Chiefs and just a fan's perspective, I am also trying to walk the fine line of observing them from a zoomed out perspective. And that can be quite interesting for sure. But I have been following the Kansas City Chiefs since I was a kid, and that is why I do this every single week. Is that I love them. They are the only team that I watch play or do anything. If you have a favorite team in college football, I haven't seen them. If you have a favorite NBA team, haven't watched them. Baseball team, nope. Kansas City Royals, yeah, they're definitely my team. However, even like there's history and lore there. So if you haven't seen any of that, or you don't know the background story of how the Kansas City Royals sued me in 2020 or 2015, then yeah, there's a lot to cover in my other videos. Feel free to check them out. We ended up to the point where I walked away unscathed, and that's all that matters with that lawsuit. But you can Google my name and literally find out about it if you really want to. But today, I'm definitely here to be talking the Monday Night Football matchup through the astrology lens. And we're going to be looking at the quarterback matchup today, just because it is quite fun to see these young quarterbacks that have so much in common astrology wise kind of face off head to head talent wise. So without further ado, let's jump into today's game chart. We have Tampa Bay Buccaneers facing off against Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium at 7:15 p.m. Allegedly, there are going to be storms and all sorts of things happening. So if the game starts later, then none of this matters, and I've wasted 2 hours of my life. But have I? No, not at all. If I get to teach anyone about anything today that can help them read their own chart better or their own sports astrology charts better, then I have done my job. I have succeeded, and that's really all that matters. But we are going to be looking at shocking the degrees. So I'm going to show you guys the very worn out book, The 360 Degrees of Wisdom by the one and only Linda Hill. And this is where I'm pulling these symbols for these degrees. A little bit of backstory about the Sabian symbols in 1920s. I think it was 1925. It was channeled. These symbols are channeled through a very, very special woman named Elsie Wheeler. And Elsie had quite a bit of disabilities and obstacles in life, and her physical body being one of them, like crippling arthritis and a few other things being another. So Mark Edmund Jones went with Elsie Wheeler, and this is like and the reason that I'm like vaguely talking about this or like giving you as much details as I can is because there are no details about this. Like, if we could have found out when the Sabian symbols were channeled, since we have Elsie's chart, it would have been really, really cool to do a deep dive on that. Yet the mystery remains. So if you, for some reason, know this mystery date and could help us out, that'd be great. But for now, we are going to be flipping directly to 20 degrees Gemini in the Sabian symbols, which is right here. A cafeteria with an abundance of choices. So with Jupiter being on the ascendant, exactly on the ascendant for the alleged kickoff time today, we're seeing quite a bit of options. And when you see Gemini in general, you're looking at hands, arms, lungs, and the nervous system, what they represent in the physical body. So we're looking at the hands, the arms, the lungs, and the nervous system today to be on all cylinders, firing on all cylinders. There we go. Knowing that there's so much with Jupiter being at that degree, 20 degrees, that is a Scorpio degree of the, if you're following along with degree theory. But it is represented in the Sabian symbols by a cafeteria with an abundance of choices. This is the karmic degree for today's rising, as well as the white moon, Selena, and Jupiter right there on the ascendant at exactly 20 degrees Gemini. So Jupiter is retrograde, which means, maybe this is like a homecoming. Maybe this is a game where it's like, easing back into things. It has been a couple home or road games, excuse me. So this could definitely feel like a much needed break. However, for the Chiefs, we're looking at their Gemini sun being in the 12th house today. So that will be a different story. We will move past that story just because it's like, hey, we can get there when we get there. But for the speed of today's game, we're looking at Mars and Leo, okay? So Mars just went into Leo today. Whenever I look at these game charts, it's really just a map of the current transits. And if you happen to be in the central time zone, this is also applying to you. So with Mars and Leo, this is starting the Mars retrograde course, right? We're going to see Mars retrograde from Leo into Cancer, and it stops around 17 degrees Cancer. And the only reason I know that is because that is the exact degree of my ascendant. So I'm just like, all right, I already have Mars directly on my descendant in astrology in my birth chart. But in astrology, when you see Mars on a descendant or Mars on the ascendant, you know that there's a boost. It's either with others, which is where the descendant comes in, or with yourself, which is where the ascendant comes in. So with Mars being ruled by the sun and the sun being in Scorpio in the 6th house, we're kind of looking at yes, you could say wounded ego, pride issues. You could definitely say some control issues. With the 6th house being ruled by Mars, we're going to be seeing some showing out physically as well as verbally, mostly because the moon today is at what I like to call the foreign degree of 22 degrees Sagittarius. And it's like a kill or be killed energy, right? It's like if you take immigration back to its rawest form, and even in today's world, there are some people that have to leave their countries and flee via very primitive means of travel. So if you look at that energy, this energy is like a feral Sagittarius energy, but then we have Venus right there. So we are experiencing a Venus gate if you follow the Venus star or Venus synodic cycle, or the journey of the descent of Ayanana. Like there's just so many things when you see the moon and Venus together that lead to amplification of whatever you're feeling inside already. And I don't know if foreign born people are going to have a hell of a game this game, but it does seem like whenever I see that 22 degrees Sagittarius, I either know that somebody that was born on foreign soil is involved, somebody that has traveled everywhere is involved, somebody like with the moon there, you could say maybe like mother born in a foreign country. So maybe it's somebody's kid that shows out today. That was the first generation American born. Something along those lines, just because I never discount that 22 degrees Sagittarius, mostly because it's never steered me wrong. Whenever I see 22 degrees Sagittarius in a chart, I know that it's like, yeah, it's the kill or be killed degree of Sagittarius. But with Sagittarius, it's your own mind, right? So your higher mind and your lower mind are kind of represented by that 3rd and 9th house axis. So Gemini ruling the 3rd house, Sagittarius ruling the 9th house. You think of the lower mind like elementary school and middle school and all those like government jobs is what I call public school. And then you see college and PhDs and trade schools and like specialty schools being more like the 9th house. But like with that kind of kill or be killed moon that we were talking about, going back to that scary sounding thing, Sagittarius can be like the master of their own fate, and with this, I feel like emotions and emotional outburst will be on display today, and that can really seal the fate of either team or whoever it is that is having those emotional outbursts. So that's something cool to look at. But going back to the 3rd house, that's ruled by the sun being in Scorpio in the 6th house. We're looking at both the 3rd house and 4th house being ruled by the sun. So yeah, it's going to be a very transformative mental and physical day for everybody involved. When I do another quick glance, rounding out to the 6th house, which is where the physical body and like physical health is represented, there's usually a pretty strong chance that you see when it's a Mars ruled sixth house. It's very aggressive, very determined, very passionate energy. So while these while these players and while these teams and while these fan bases might not necessarily be huge, like historical rivals, I really think thanks to Tom Brady that Tampa Bay like got on our shit list very quickly as Chiefs fans. So it should be an interesting game, an interesting matchup going into the seventh house ruled by Jupiter, which is in the first house, and Gemini station retrograde. We are kind of seeing, I would like to say, not a slower pace. I'm seeing a more like justified and more enlightened group this time on the field, like that the Chiefs are playing against. I kind of feel like the traveling team here is going to present a little bit of a challenge and just be a little bit in your face, and maybe even at halftime that's where everything switches over for the Chiefs to feel comfortable. But going into the eighth house, it's ruled by Saturn. Eighth house to me is representative of the collective unconscious as well as the collective frequency at times. And when you're looking at the collective in general, it's very much like gambling houses. I like to call it the Vegas house just because it is other people's money. Remember, the eighth house is the house of OPP, and that can stand for a lot of different things. But for this one, we're just going to go with property and finances. So, this game could be a little bit tricky with Saturn station retrograde in the 10th house and ruling over that 8th house. It could be like a lot of like, if you've been making smart bets, all right, this game is for you. If you've been reckless with your money, maybe not. Maybe this game is a little bit more lesson inducing. And for all those people that are either firmly, staunchly stuck on the fact that they know the outcome of the game, they could be in for a rude awakening with Saturn ruling that 8th house. Going into the travel team, the 9th house, it's funny because the 9th house, the travel team, starts at the unexpected thunderstorm degree. So while Tampa is certainly no stranger to rainstorms and thunderstorms, it will be different here in Kansas City just because Kansas City, one, has no place you can go to escape said rainstorms, and that kind of shows that maybe like a rain delay could possibly affect stamina, energy, something of the Buccaneers. So that'll be interesting to watch. The last time we had that degree ruling over a house was, I believe, not the last Monday Night Football game. It was like one of the last games. Can't remember, but it was the second degree of Aquarius ruled over the 12th house. And I'm like, yep, there's definitely going to be a thunder or rain delay. And there was. So the thunderstorm possibly affecting that 9th house team or the 9th house energy, which to me represents the travel team. If you're new here, all I can tell you is that I am self-taught in almost everything I do, right? I'm self-taught in media. I'm self-taught in speaking. I did go to speech therapy for a while, but like funny story, I do have a speech impediment that stops me from saying R's, S, L, T, anything sounding like an S. So even C's can be difficult. But because of my sheer willpower and resistance to being anything other than heard very loud and clear, I taught myself with the help of speech therapists too to speak. Then I ended up talking for a living in sports radio, and then it just kind of kept going. And now I talk about the stars for a living, and that's pretty neat too. But if you're new here, very self-taught. So this method might not be what you've read about. It might not be what you do personally. It is just what I do. And I'm learning each and every day. I don't know why I sounded so angry after that. I'm learning, damn it. I am learning, but it is really important to remember that with astrology, the best way to go and learn from what you're actually doing is like doing it in hindsight. So like, yeah, it's cool that I can do all this stuff right now and I can break it down all these placements and aspects and stuff, but it's taken a long time to get to that point. So please don't beat yourself up if that's not something you're great at, because it's okay. There's going into the 10th house and going with the 26 degree Aquarius MC will pick up right back where I left off before I started babbling. No, you got to tell lore. You got to tell background on yourself. You got to tell like the stories. You got to tell the things that make you unique, because in a sea of people that love the cosmos, I know that I have a gift that I can share with other people to really help them unlock themselves. So I'm going to share it. It's just a matter of like how much you guys really want to listen to me. And thank God for my Gemini moon. I can yap all day. So getting back to the 10th house and that Saturn ruled MC, we're seeing Saturn retrograde in the 10th house of that 12 degree Pisces, which is kind of like mega charged Pisces energy, because 12 degrees in degree theory once again rules Pisces since it is the 12th house. Looking at Saturn, I know that the moon is moon and Venus and Pallas are opposing the rising Jupiter and Selena of this little conjunction. So we are forming a little T square here with Neptune. So you got to look at all the different degrees and all the different signs. But for Pisces 12 degrees station retrograde, we're looking at the karmic degree, which would be that Pisces 12 degrees. Once again, if you are just now tuning in, this is the 360 Degrees of Wisdom by Linda Hill. She's incredible, an astrologer that has traveled the world. I got to feature her in my Northern magazine issue this last issue, the fall equinox. There we go. Like literally, it's Monday, it's moon day. There's very few things that I would do ever on a moon day, let alone get dressed and be seen via camera. But since I'm here, you're welcome. Let's get back into this. The 12 degrees of Pisces is represented in the Sabian symbols by an examination of initiates in sanctuary of an occult brotherhood. So not necessarily a lot that we can pull on from this degree. I feel like, if anything, the symbolism of tonight's game will be loud. Then we get to the Pisces 13 degrees, which is the truth degree of this placement. So if you're ever looking at your Sabian symbols and you want to figure out the degrees, the exact degree is your karmic degree. The rounded up degree is the truth degree. And the degree following the truth degree is the solution or the quest degree. So it's either something that can show you a way to fix the energy of the placement that you're examining, or it's like something that can help lead you to a place that will help you fix that energy. So if we're looking at the solution degree to tonight's Saturn, it will be a woman wrapped in fox fur. So look out for people wearing fur jackets. No, I mean, maybe, who knows? With Mercury tonight, which is another, like we've looked at rising, we've looked at the moon, we've looked at Saturn, another huge component, and we've looked at Mars. Another huge component of tonight is going to be Mercury, and in the 6th house at the 3 degrees. 3 degrees Sagittarius is two men playing a game of chess. I don't even have to look at my book. I just know that it's two men playing chess. And it's very much about calculated movement and calculated moves, and the way that people can kind of like calculate their next steps. And especially with football, the play calling, everything, being in Sagittarius, a lot of leg power tonight, a lot of really making sure that, you know, you have your opponent in the checkmate position. And I think that's really going to be fun. The truth degree of the Mercury is a little child learning to walk with the encouragement of parents. So maybe we see somebody walking around like a cute little baby. I don't know. And then the quest degree or the solution degree is an old owl perched high up in a tree. Now, I'd like to say that there's just going to be an old owl hanging out around Arrowhead Stadium, and there will be an opportunity for us to see an owl. More so, I feel like this owl is going to be like represented as like a wise older person, or somebody that's like a former player or coach or kind of like mentor energy coming back and maybe helping out with tonight's win on either side of the ball. Who knows? Then with Neptune in retrograde in the 10th house, in the end of the 10th house, we kind of see that's not really squaring Mercury at all. That's more squaring Venus and the moon. But up there with Saturn and Neptune, That's also, having that nice little T square with the moon, Venus, and Jupiter and white moon and the rising. So there's a lot going on in this chart. We have an intercepted 11th house with the North Node and Aries there, as well as Chiron. I do believe with interceptions, it's like having padding on either side. It's almost like having bumper guards up in a bowling situation. So yeah, you might be like, I have an intercepted 10th house. So my intercepted 10th house Aries sun, people are always like, oh, wow, you're so calm for an Aries. And I'm like, well, it's mostly because I have a lot of Pisces energy, but also my 10th house is intercepted. So my Aries is either side. It's covered with Pisces and also Taurus. So just a fun fact: I don't think the head injuries are going to be as loud with this game. I know with Chiron in Aries currently, we've been talking a lot about head injuries and preventing those. That is at a Scorpio degree of, if you're looking at degree theory, with that 20 degrees Chiron in Aries. With Mars right now being in Leo, I feel like a lot of movements are going to be very heartfelt. And I know that's so cliche because Leo rules over the heart, but it's true. A lot of these things, like protecting your head with your heart and really, leading with emotions, is going to be a theme over the. I don't have to tell you guys that. If anyone lives in America right now, especially North America, if you're on this side of the map, and you're experiencing the tremendous hostility within America at the moment, yeah, you're not wrong. There's a lot of things being upheaved, and a lot of energy is going to be simmering and boiling and cooling off, and then simmering and boiling again with Mars retrograde. So we are in for a long emotional haul. This game might just put that Mars and Leo on display a little bit going into the 12th house being ruled by Taurus, so ruled by Venus. Venus being in Sagittarius, this very well could play up for, the traveling team, which travel is usually connected to the 9th house and to Sagittarius. It could just mean that this team is getting in the heads of whoever's dominating that 12th house. I keep circling it with my cursor, like you guys can see this, but you can't. Whoever's like showing out on that 12th house, 6th house, 12th house, we're looking at Taurus ruling the 12th house. So therefore Scorpio is ruling the 6th house. That's going to be a very stubborn and fixed energy, obviously. So, it'll be fun to have Uranus in there in the 12th house station retrograde, and that can kind of break up the monotony of it all. But I'm excited to see how this game plays out. It looks like very heavy physical competition, and then some people getting stuck in their heads or stuck physically, and they can't seem to move out of it. So without further ado, we can look at the Bucks chart. I do have, like I said, the quarterbacks. I do have the information. We can jump over there whenever you feel like it. But looking at Tampa Bay's chart here, we see the game on the inner wheel of the chart. And the inner wheel of the chart. Yes, I did say that right. It's been a day. It's a Monday. Like I said, I don't usually do things on Mondays. And if I do, it's for my own betterment. And I think that this is definitely it. With the Tampa Bay chart, it's an April 24th, 1974 Wednesday chart. Of course, it's a noon chart because we are just using the day that it was announced in that noon profile just to give it more of an even playing field, because that's what all the teams have been doing, or that's what all the astrologers that follow sports that I agree with have been doing. But like, I can agree with, or I can disagree with somebody and still support them. It's shocking. The one thing I don't compromise on is respect. So that's where I draw the line. It's like, yeah, whatever. I can deal with some things, but the respect part is definitely where I draw the line. So if we're looking at this chart, first of all, we notice that they are a Taurus, and Tampa Bay having the sun close to that part of fortune in the 12th house. Maybe they have a spiritual moment. Maybe Tampa Bay is like, wow, we don't really have a chance against the Chiefs, but this is going to be a learning moment. The learning part definitely comes in with their Gemini moon. Once again, since it is a noon chart, we're not like 100% with the MC or the rising or the part of fortune or vertex for the team. Before the game, it's pretty accurate. So when we're looking at the chart ruler for the game, we obviously have to look at that Mercury that I did not look at when I first delineated the game chart. So doing it the proper way now, we're going to be looking at that Mercury in the sixth house ruling the game for tonight, and that is two men playing a game of chess. That indicates to me that the game's going to be close. What's really fun is that not only do we have Jupiter and Selena right there on the ascendant, we are also now throwing in Tampa Bay's south node. Excuse me. If you guys have felt anything this last week, it is probably I don't want to say like if you guys have had a horrible time the last few weeks, it's only because the south node is getting louder, and especially for Libra placements right now, especially those early Libra placements or really early cardinal placements. Like the south node right now is opposite my sun, but the north node is conjunct my sun. So it's like, yeah, it sucks, but whatever. I'm also very used to having my south node conjunct the IC and my north node conjunct the MC. So I'm kind of like navigating this differently. But if you or your loved ones have personally been a victim of this Libra south node transit, you are not alone. The south node being on the ascendant right there for Tampa Bay, this game will feel comfortable to them. This game will feel like they've been here before. They will know how to navigate it. It's going to be very comfortable waters, but at the same time, not really. Mostly because you have that Saturn and Mars conjunction there in the first house. So yes, this is deeply personal to them. However, with a Mars and Saturn conjunction in Cancer, we've already experienced a lot of the Mars at 2 degrees Cancer as a collective, and now it's time to watch Tampa Bay harness this for themselves. I do believe this is going to mean that they are pushing heavier and faster in the first quarter. I feel like they're going to easily fizzle out. That moon ruled Mars being ruled by the moon in Sagittarius doesn't really say much for longevity. It does say a lot for traveling in style and traveling somewhere quickly or getting someplace quickly. So maybe the game is over quicker for them. I don't know. Moving into the second house of today's game, it's ruled by the moon once again in Sagittarius. Mars will be in there, so that'll be definitely fun for people who have been betting wisely. I feel like this is a good game for you. Then we're going into that solar ruled third house, nothing in there for the Tampa Bay. Reminder once again that part of fortune right there is not exact. So this is a noon chart, so it's not going to be exact, or else I'd be like, ooh, that's something. Fun fact, actually, again, that is the exact degree of the Super Bowl for 2025 that I just found out about. So last year's Super Bowl was, I believe, a 2 degree Leo rising, and now the next Super Bowl is going to be a 19 degree Leo rising. So useless information for all of you. Going into the fourth house ruled by the sun, that is the home team. The fourth house for me is what represents the home team. So seeing that sixth house Scorpio sun, I definitely feel solid in rather than having the 10th house Pisces Saturn ruling the 9th house for the away team, having the 6th house Scorpio sun ruling the 4th house for the home team is definitely a good sign. Once again, we're not talking about the home team, so I'll just keep it moving. 5th house is where the Buccaneers have their Pluto and Vesta conjunction, and that will be conjunct Vesta as well as the South Node. So the fact that Tampa Bay has, Pluto and Vesta right there with the South Node, and I just talked about how uncomfortable it's feeling for all of us with the South Node hitting any of our Libra or like early degree cardinal planets. I'm feeling that Tampa Bay might be feeling this. Who knows? But moving towards that, today's Lilith and then Juno in the 5th house. Once again, I have no idea what I'm doing with the asteroids in sports astrology, okay? Like, we're just winging it here. I know what I'm doing with them in a reading, so that can help translate to sports astrology somehow, and that's exciting. Today's game Vertex is going to be in Scorpio as well, conjunct the sun. So I do think Scorpios have a big game this week. And then moving in towards that sixth house, like I said, ruled by Mars. Anything is possible creatively for the Bucks. We're seeing Uranus retrograde at 25 degrees in that fifth house. So that could be cool. That's some of the hopeful things that I see for the Buccaneers. But with that Sun and Scorpio Vertex in that sixth house kicking it off, and that 9 degrees is where the new moon just was for, I think it was on the 1st. Yeah. So if you guys didn't feel that huge shift and that new story being rewritten with the new moon in Scorpio at 9 degrees, maybe you'll feel it tonight. Who knows? I think anytime that we can collectively go from, I think, the divisiveness and the anger that's been fueling a lot of October, maybe November will just come with like a fuck it and let's just see what happens kind of mentality. Because I think that's where a lot of astrologers have been, at least the people that I've been talking to. It's like, we'll just see what happens. We know a lot of things and we can predict a lot of things, and sometimes it's fun to sit back and watch. So moving on with the Buccaneers chart, we have the Neptune retrograde at 9 degrees in that sixth house, and that is loosely conjunct Mercury for tonight. So maybe a player that they've been waiting to do something actually does something tonight, or maybe somebody that they're like looking forward to having a big career with them does well tonight, or maybe something that they thought was a lot better than they were has a horrible game tonight. We don't know. With that North Node and Pallas and Venus and Moon conjunction, I'm really excited about this because I feel like the Buccaneers do have a shot tonight for sure. The conditions are whack. The team is definitely feeling this undefeated pressure. The haters, let's just put it this way. The others, which we're looking at when we talk about the seventh house, is like how other people interact with you, how you are presented to other people energetically, and also how people receive you and interact with you and all that. We're looking at the seventh house, and the North Node always magnetizes and magnifies whatever is already within. So whatever is already being said about the traveling team, especially with all the Sagittarius placements, it could be something that they use for motivation, or let's just look at that degree of Sagittarius because it's very loud tonight. The 20 degree of Sagittarius is represented by, in winter, people are cutting ice from a frozen pond for summer use. This is like kind of the prepper degree. So if you've ever like known anybody that's a prepper, or like I just tweeted about people who build underground shelters because they're afraid of what comes next. It's from the Hopi elders. It's from a book I was reading about the Kali Yuga over the weekend. But the 20th degree of Sagittarius is very much about preparing for what's ahead. The 21 degrees of Sagittarius is represented by a child and a dog wearing borrowed eyeglasses, which I think is really cute. And then the 22 degrees of Sagittarius is represented by a Chinese laundry. So with all of that energy, because anytime you look at 1 degree, you kind of have to look at the whole parts. Tonight is fun for the Buccaneers only because it's like a big teaching moment. The 20th degree to me represents something with their North Node that they are learning to prepare for the games ahead. And that is going to be helped with the Venus tonight being at that 21 degrees Sagittarius. That's at the truth degree of that North Node. And then the moon is at the quest/solution degree for that North Node. So I do think we see the Buccaneers solve something internally, possibly within their team tonight. I don't know what that is. Like I said, I pay attention to the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's about it. That's all I need. That and this incredible 1-to-1 THC CBD lemon G specialty from Elevate Cannabis here in Kansas City. It's incredible. If you are ever able to stop by one of their spots, or head to a dispensary in Missouri where they sell, it's the best ever. It's like such a good thinking cannabis blend. So yeah, 1-to-1 THC CBD. Who knew that I'd be a CBD person? in 2024. Gotta love it. Going into the 8th house for the Buccaneers, we're not seeing a lot. We do have Lilith there in the 8th house, so maybe their fans react poorly to any certain famous women tonight. Maybe some women that just completed the North American leg of their billions and billions, I would say trillions at this point, $1 trillion tour. Going into the 8th house, like I said, ruled by Saturn, they have Lilith there. They could just be acting squirrely. That conjunction between Lilith and Ceres is pretty fun. I don't really see anything popping out for tonight's game except maybe like older moms. Could be like getting protection or like seeking not cover, but like I see like older energy matching with younger energy with that Lilith and Ceres connection. Going into the 9th house, like I said, that thunderstorm degree, that 2 degrees Aquarius is the unexpected thunderstorm degree. So maybe we see the unexpected thunderstorm. I don't know. I'm not a meteorologist, but I do know a few. So I guess I was looking at their weather reports. I think it was Cassie Wilson from KSHB. There we go. And showers are possible tonight, but it did rain a lot. I don't think that you guys can see out my window, but it has been really like foggy, dreary, very Seattle weather. Going into the 9th house, like I said, that palace being right there. I think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers learned something from tonight's game. I just don't know what it's going to be. The MC being at 26 degrees Aquarius, we see Tampa Bay's Juno conjunct the MC. So let's just take a look at that degree of Juno and just see if there's anything there. Because I do like the 29 degree of Aquarius. It's really fun. It's a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis. I think that if anything tonight, what's going to be on display is the changes in growth, maybe like from Tampa Bay since they've been to Arrowhead last. Who knows? Getting in there with Ceres and then Jupiter and Venus all in the 10th house for Tampa Bay. Having an exalted Venus is always fun. It's very lovey energy. So I think Tampa Bay really must love themselves, the ocean, with that Pisces, Venus, and Jupiter conjunction. It's a good thing they're by the ocean. Here with Saturn conjunct their Jupiter, anytime I see Saturn making conjunctions to planets like personal planets such as Jupiter, and in this case Venus, it's very much constricted, and especially Saturn retrograde. It could be tonight we see any sort of foot injuries that could have been not necessarily healed properly, or maybe like pushed back in priority of like needing to get it done. That 10th house being ruled by Saturn / Aquarius is definitely very telling, but the truth degree for that Juno is going to be the 1 degree of Pisces, so a crowded public marketplace. That's definitely cool. Going into the 11th house, I definitely see with Neptune being right there at the beginning, Tampa could have rose-colored glasses with the opponents. They could easily in the first half be like very much, we got this, no worries, we're going to be fine. But then as Tampa Bay is going through their Chiron return, it's interesting to see if that will help them with that. Like I said, that intercepted 11th house kind of feels like padding on either side for physical injuries tonight, just because I'm not quite sure I see too much of that. But with Chiron being opposite the natal Uranus for Tampa Bay, who knows? This is definitely going to be interesting to watch as far as longevity and strength and stamina for the game, because, I mean, come on, Tampa Bay has a 4 degree Taurus sun. 4 degrees, yes, that is a Cancer degree. Yes, that is an emotionally charged degree. If this was a 2 degree Taurus sun, I think I'd be a little bit more worried or a little bit more intimidated, but I love how like any of these clips where I'm just like, yeah, I don't really worry about it. I know that the Chiefs are going to be fine. Could easily be turned into clips to troll me. So I'm aware. I choose my words wisely because I know that with anything, especially sports, anything is possible. But thanks to us having an insight to the cosmos, I feel like I'm a little bit more prepared. Who knows? With that 12th house moon tonight being at that power degree of Gemini. Once again, this is a noon chart, so the moon is not going to be exactly accurate, but it being in Gemini, pretty fitting, or even a late degree Taurus moon, it would still be in that 12th house regardless, and it would still be in that house regardless if it was forward. So I feel like I thought I had a 12th house moon for like, I don't know, 6-7 years of my life. And I really took that to heart. I was very much like, I need to isolate. I mean, honestly, I need to isolate because I'm an Aries. Has nothing to do with my 12th house moon. But I always like felt that need to be like away or apart from others or decompress. So maybe if they're having a great time at halftime, they could easily get in their heads and overlook some things with that Jupiter conjunct South node, and then that Saturn and Mars conjunction squaring the South node today, um, as well as, some of that kind of T square with the North node, South node, Vesta, Pluto with the Bucks, Saturn, and Mars. It's loud there. It's loud there. And then you have white moon on the very beginning for the Bucks, the very beginning of the 11th house. So there's just a lot going on there. I do see some burst and some benefits, so I'm not going to completely rule them out. Okay. I feel like that's the least I can do. I feel like there's a lot of people that try to be non-biased and they just end up failing miserably. So I am doing my best here. Looking at the Chiefs and Tampa Bay game chart with the Chiefs on the outer wheel, we see some 12th house action for the Kansas City Chiefs. And this is not something that we've seen much this year. So the Chiefs are going to have their Sun, Moon, and Mercury if we are using the May 22nd, 1963 date. And then they have this huge pile up in the 4th house, which I'm really excited about. But really with Mercury ruling tonight's chart, as long as the game starts on time, like I said, at the very beginning of this, I'm like, the whole game could be, and my entire analysis could be completely and totally wrong because it could be storming tonight. Who knows? But if you are just now tuning in, I also mentioned that the away team looks to be suffering more from the unexpected thunderstorms, if anything. So getting into the Chiefs' first house, we're not seeing anything. I'm going to ignore the 12th house and not start there because that is not what you do when you delineate a chart. Like, let me just cut to the fact that Mercury for the Chiefs is in the 12th house. That makes no sense. Like, let's look at how the 12th house is packed when we get there. First house for the Chiefs, the first house starting at 20 degrees Gemini, and then having the white moon, Selena, and then Jupiter retrograde right on the ascendant tonight. Not hitting anything personally for the Chiefs outside of squaring their Vesta and Juno, and then loosely squaring their Chiron. More importantly, going into the second house, that North node at 21 degrees Cancer is there, and I feel like it's boosting the just the overall physical intensity of the game. With the moon ruled North node, looking at the moon in Taurus, that's still a very physical moon sign, even though that is an exalted moon. Then looking at the moon tonight at 22 degrees Sagittarius, that is a very vocal moon. That is a very loud moon. That is a very chaotic moon. And at that 22 degrees, it's kind of perfect. But I love the inconjunct aspects too. I think it's really fascinating, and I have utmost faith that I will be learning more about that and incorporating that more into my practice, simply because I'm working with a very talented astrologer for the winter solstice issue of my Northern magazine to do a whole series on the hero's journey and then aspects in astrology correlating. So please, please, please mark that on your calendars. If you're not busy enough already, December 21st is when I will be promoting a lot of things, mostly my free magazine that is available. I do have the copies. Let me see if I can do this correctly. Right there. Yep. They're right behind me. I should just have one next to me for this promotional moment, yet I don't. So take a look for, I feel like it's going to be like an offering guidebook situation. I'm also doing an incredible roundtable with three very talented astrologers. And I know very is a very bleh kind of word to use to describe people. Three innately gifted astrologers, people that, whether they want to or not, cannot deny their astrological impact and their impact on astrology in general. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think more voices need to be heard in the astrology community, and it's not just the people that have like deemed themselves, like I've deemed myself the sports astrology expert, even though it's like year 2 of me doing this. I'm still dedicating quite a large bit of time, but that's okay. I'm enjoying it so far. Looking at let's go back to the chart, of course. I should probably specify that. Looking back at that, Leo Mars, it is activating the Chief's palace in Leo at that 6 degrees. But other than that, it is just simply starting the long drawn out process of the Chief's Mars return. So once again, if you have missed out on the beginning of this live stream, I talked a lot more about Mars retrograde and how that's going to be affecting plenty of people. I feel like it's a lot of, I know that I've been talking about like false idols falling and all these like fake guru people. I've witnessed people in the astrology spaces that mouth off too much and don't back up what they actually do for a living, getting, completely snipped out of the universe. And I feel like there's a lot more awareness happening with who people truly are during this Mars retrograde that will be in Leo and then going back into Cancer. And then maybe one day, I think in like March, the Chiefs might actually have their actual Mars return. So that'll be interesting. But with the Chiefs having a Mars in Leo, I do think they are going to be a little bit more boosted mentally, communication wise, and just in general. They're going to be roaring for sure. And tonight is no exception. Rain, shine, whatever weather, Arrowhead stays rocking. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Looking at the 4th house being ruled by the sun, and that sun is ruling that 2nd house too. That 6th house Scorpio sun, very transformative, very much shaping the second half ish of the football season for the Chiefs tonight. Looking at the stacked Uranus, Ceres, White Moon, Selena, Pluto, Juno, and Vesta in that 4th house, we are seeing so much energy in the 4th house supporting a warm and loving reception, as well as a mercurial, there we go, victory in this sense. Looking at that Saturn opposition to Pluto, as well as their Juno, and White Moon and Ceres, that Saturn opposition to all that energy, I do feel like the Chiefs have been put under pressure and put under a microscope in a lot of different ways, but that's just going to be even louder tonight, and this is a great time to shut everybody up. So I'm pumped. The one thing I do want to say, the 0 degrees of Leo Mars, to look at that, we have to look at the 1 degree of Leo, right? Because there's no 0 in the Sabian symbols. There's the 30, and then there's the 1. So 30 is the representation of kind of like the Cancer 30 degrees. It's like the closing energy of Leo and the opening energy of Leo. So the closing energy of it is the daughter of the American Revolution. Very angsty. Very angsty. I also didn't realize that I could be one of those because I had ancestors that fought in the American Revolution, but no thanks. Going into no thanks. Going into Leo 1 degree, we're looking at a man is under emotional stress and blood rushes to his head. So I do call this the fainting degree. But it could be like just emotional frustration and emotional turmoil that leads to anger or blood rushing to somebody's head. Who knows? Going into the solution degree of that Mars, it'll be an epidemic of mumps, and then a mature woman keeping up with the times, having her hair bobbed, is right after that. So not sure where I was going with the symbolism on that one, but I do feel like a daughter of the American Revolution, a man under emotional stress, with this election, and everyone having like a lot of pressure put on them in their daily life to keep up with everything and still be a good citizen and do your duties and take care of the things that you believe in, and like all that stuff. It's a lot of pressure. And if anything, I hope everybody hydrates well tonight and they're not just getting tore up on a Monday without any sort of food in their stomach. I know Arrowhead is known for being Drunkenhead as well, so we'll see. I wanted to look at the game tonight just real quick so you guys can see how this energy is matching up, just because it's interesting. With the Mercury in the 12th house for the Chiefs, I know we didn't get there, and I just kind of like cut myself off looking at the Chiefs, but their Saturn up there on the MC, I wanted to point out, and it's kind of easier to give you a breakdown of how I like see the game going when I have all the teams on the screen. So take a minute and look at that real quick. I'm going to drink some water. The reason I brought up Saturn on the MC, that 22-degree Saturn on the very outer wheel of the chart and right next to the arrow at the top of the chart, that is something that like was actually brought up on the timeline today. I think somebody was talking about Saturn aspecting North Node placements. I can't remember. And it was very, very interesting just because the MC and the North Node to me are so similar. But it's probably also because my North Node is conjunct my MC. And whenever Saturn is in that area, which it will be very soon, it like activates so much of your career path. So tonight will be interesting for the Chiefs for sure to see that. But one thing that is super loud is just that 12th house sun that we didn't really get to. So if you're looking at the 12th house of tonight's chart, you're going to be looking at the 9 o'clock. If you're looking at this chart like a clock, it would be at the 9 o'clock part. That little circle with a dot in the middle of it with the 2 zeros next to it is the Kansas City Chiefs sun, and that is in the 12th house of tonight's game. So being able to see all that, know that all that's happening, know that the Chiefs might have a very slow start to this game. I think, with that sun and moon conjunction with the Chiefs and Tampa Bay, it should be an interesting matchup. But I wanted to show you guys a preview of the game chart because I have some extras for you. So the reason that it's like hard to do football astrology, and we'll get back to the tri-wheel, we'll get back to the predictions, we'll get back to the signs that are going to do well. We're going to do all that here, wrapping up pretty shortly. You got to look at the quarterbacks, right? And you got to look at the charts where it's like, okay, is this going to be something where Patrick's going to go off? Is this going to be where he's got a lot of planets in the 12th house and we're just going to have to be concerned? Same with Baker. So this is Baker Mayfield's chart. If you guys are following along with it, you can see up here. Oh, that's the backdrop. Number 1 live editor, remember? Baker's chart right here shows that he is also in that 11th house. So not only do the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have their sun at 4 degrees Taurus in that 11th house, Baker Mayfield has his 24-degree Aries sun and Mercury conjunction. That Mercury Kazemi, that's fun. In the 11th house as well. So that's definitely fun to see. And because this is a noon chart, if anybody knows Baker and wants to donate his birth time, or if Baker is watching this in the locker room, because that sounds about right, just trying to figure out what the stars are doing for him tonight, definitely send in Baker Mayfield's birth time, only with permission. Ethical birth times only. I think my camera froze, so we're going to have to change that out real quick. There we go. Live editing, everybody. So with Tampa Bay and Baker Mayfield, I feel like it's interesting synastry enough. But if you were to look at his chart just with the game, that's kind of like where you can see the personal performance. So going back into the chart, we have that first house. He's got a Vesta in Cancer there. The ascendant doesn't really matter because it's a noon chart. He has a Ceres and he has Mars in Leo. So this is also going to be Baker Mayfield's Mars return. I was going to say Leo return. I'm not really sure what a Leo return would be. Sounds cool. But then you see his Chiron in Virgo, Chiron retrograde in the 4th house. So interesting. He might be physically weaker this game. His Chiron is also directly opposite his Venus, which is conjunct Patrick Mahomes's Saturn. That's fun. Um, Going into the fifth house, which is ruled by Mercury, we see Baker's Libra moon. We don't know what degree that moon is at, but we do know that it's in Libra just because, unless it was like a 0 degree or like an early degree Libra moon or a really, really late degree Libra moon, then it could possibly change signs. But other than that, we're pretty sure it's locked in as Libra moon. The North Node in Scorpio right there is going to be a little bit of a boost with his creative side. So we might see creative plays. It could actually bring out a little bit of creative transformation for Baker. I think anytime that you come to Arrowhead, you got to be creative just because of the energy that we exude. You kind of have to match that. And if you don't, well, you get run over. Yeah, you get run over. One thing I haven't done is profile our defensive side of the ball. And yes, you'll get run over. Baker's Pluto is conjunct Mercury tonight, so that's Pluto retrograde. And in this situation, he might just be obsessing over, the technique and obsessing over the patterns tonight, because with that Mercury being at two men playing a game of chess, it is very calculated. It is very much like, okay, how can I move ahead? How can I move forward? You want to be calculated when you're an NFL quarterback. Every move you have to make is precise, and to have that calculated energy helps. There are some aspects here with Pluto making that maybe not so easy of an energy. It's trine Mars tonight. Baker's Pluto is trine Mars tonight. So maybe that'll give him a little bit of a boost in the physical aspect of it. If anything, leg injuries with Pluto conjunct Mercury could be a thing. Jupiter is also here on the descendant. Jupiter retrograde is also going to be conjunct Pallas tonight. So that'll be another thing for him to watch, maybe not leaning so much on his physical talent and being a little bit more aware of his hands. And he's having his Jupiter opposition too. So that can also feel like you're just not winning. For me, Jupiter and Scorpio would be my opposition. And yeah, it's a lot. It definitely can feel like you are moving very quickly or very expansively in two different directions. So it just depends on your Jupiter story. But having that on the descendant with Pallas, I also believe that anytime that you have personal planets aspecting Pallas, you're getting like forbidden, unknown carnal knowledge. Isn't that the Van Halen album? Forbidden, unknown carnal knowledge. That also spells out fuck, in case you were slow on that one. But with Jupiter being there with Venus and the moon, Jupiter retrograde, who knows how that feels, but I do feel like emotionally it could be quite loud. It could be quite intense. But burst of emotion for sure, burst of energy, physical energy could be a thing, especially with the legs. You might see Baker running a lot tonight. Who knows? Going into the seventh house, we do see Juno there. That is, since the part of fortune, once again, we don't have Baker's birth time. So if any former ex-girlfriends or stalkers happen to know it, please clear it with him first, because I only want ethical birth times. That's what I'm doing here. I'm not going to email the state and try to like pretend that I'm family and get a birth time. That's just not how I roll. Going to that Saturn ruled 8th house, like I said, 8th house is the house of OPP. We are seeing Neptune and Uranus there for Baker. Wow, that should be a lot of fun when Pluto moves the fuck away from his Neptune placement, but then jumps right into Uranus. So that is unfortunate. However, that's also a huge, huge time to transform, illuminate from within, and electrify the way you do things. Pluto being very much the big underworld transformative planet. It might not be a planet, in our solar system, according to some people who wear lab coats, but in our hearts, Pluto lives on very loudly. Going into the 9th house, there's not a lot of personal placements there, but Baker Mayfield is going through his Saturn return. So is Mahomes, so he's not alone. Then you see his Saturn and Venus conjunction. I'm not going to say what I want to say, mostly because we're here to talk about astrology. We're not here to talk about Baker's personal life or the ways he might have messed up as a human. But him having a Pisces Saturn conjunct Venus and Pisces as well is really funny given the stories that I know about him and his energy. So that's just cracking me up internally. So you're welcome. Going into the 11th house, I do feel like his emotions, he's going to be sad, like crying. For some reason, Baker Mayfield is crying or like acting out like a baby today. Just looks like it to me. His Aries sun and Mercury conjunction being conjunct Chiron retrograde definitely is like a revisiting of sorts. Like Baker has probably had one of the most up and down careers in the NFL. He's been a lot of places, he's been a lot of QBs places. Him being in Tampa, okay, I didn't even really pay attention to that. I just knew that Tom Brady was no longer there, so that's the extent of my knowledge about Baker's whereabouts. But really, this could be just getting in his head and making. If he's a leader tonight, it's going to show, and if he's a giant baby, it's definitely going to show. And his South Node being right there in the 11th house, he knows how to do this. It's not like Baker hasn't been competing on high-level stages for quite some time. He did it in college, even in the Big 12 against Patrick Mahomes. So these two know each other really well. They know their style of play, but one is just incredibly more talented than the other. Sorry, Baker. Going into the 12th house, we see Baker's 12th house, or not, he doesn't have a 12th house. Lilith for him is in the 12th house. There we go. Conjunct Uranus retrograde. So tonight should be, like I said, it's just going to be emotionally, I feel like he's going to be supercharged, a little bit mouthy, might be just a little bit more angsty than usual. And then he has his Pallas Athena right there on the ascendant. So wrapping up the 12th house. So should be interesting. I mean, if nothing else, we're going to see two young quarterbacks, both with big college names, both in the Big 12, played against each other, continue this kind of new rivalry with Tampa Bay and the Chiefs. So we'll see. Now that I have my hair in place, we can move on to Patrick's chart. We'll close this one off. And then this is Patrick Mahomes' public chart. Yes, I have his actual exact one, but that's not the point. We're looking at his moon being in the first house of tonight's game, along with his Lilith being right there, retrograde, with Jupiter retrograde. So I'm really excited about how much emotion is going to be in tonight's game. Like, I really do feel like there's going to be just a surge of shit talking, loud defensive plays, transformative offensive plays. I don't think we're going to have the like grand mistakes that Patrick's been making a lot. As you see with his second house, that is not his vertex, but you know, whatever. Third house is relatively empty as he doesn't have many Leo placements, but then you start to see his fourth house and the Virgo Pallas, Vesta, and Sun right there in the fourth house, very loud, as well as going into the fifth house, which is Mercury ruled, and you see that where his Chiron, Venus, Ceres, and Mercury and North Node all are in Libra. So if anyone's feeling the I was going to say the tensity, like the intensity maybe. I got to work on these words. Like I said, it's Monday, and I don't really care about Mondays being my best day. So this is what you guys get of me today, and I'm very excited to even be here. So let's just keep it rolling. That Chiron and Venus conjunction is definitely loudly facing the South Node and Vesta right there in the beginning of the fifth house. So there are going to be some troubles and struggles and trials and tribulations for Patrick Mahomes. Are we seeing the Patrick Mahomes of his prime? Probably not. Are we seeing a really solid Patrick Mahomes regardless of the lack of help that he has had at times on offensive line, or just like having the mistakes of the offensive line that we've had over the last few games? I'd really like that to stop, but being in the fifth house, being intercepted, the referees will probably be all over tonight. So looking at Patrick's Mars, that is definitely very close to Juno, and then the vertex of tonight's game, that Mars being in Scorpio, means that it's also ruled by Mars, so it is just a very loud Mars right there. And then going into the sixth house, we see his Pluto and Jupiter conjunction, kind of boxing in that Mercury at 3 degrees Sagittarius for tonight's game. Then we see the Juno conjunction of the moon tonight. So this is like a deeply personal one-on-one relationship that Patrick has with Arrowhead, with this energy tonight. He's very much almost like married to the game. He's going to be very much on fire, connected, firing on all cylinders. When you go through the 8th house ruled by Saturn, you also see Neptune and Uranus there. And it looks like there's quite a bit of, I would say, friction, less energy going into the 9th house. Like I said, with the unexpected Saturn, or the unexpected thunderstorm at that 2 degrees Aquarius, that is the degree for the 9th house and the travel team. So if there is anything for the travel team, we'll see that the thunderstorm is either going to happen or not in a couple hours. We will have that answer, but it's frictionless for Patrick going into that 10th house, and that 10th house being ruled by Saturn with the Aquarius MC. We are seeing Patrick's natal Saturn at 21 degrees retrograde there in the 10th house. So tonight, Patrick's Saturn is at 12 degrees, and Patrick's Saturn is at 21 degrees, and it's sandwiched between Saturn and Pisces at 12 degrees, and then Neptune at Pisces at 27 degrees. So with that being said, it is retrograde. Both of those planets, Saturn and Neptune transit, are retrograde as well at the moment. So I do think that there's plenty of support there to have an even keel game. However, with the turf being super questionable, with the field conditions being questionable, it has been raining, but Arrowhead's great about that. Who knows? It's definitely not the Jets field. The Jets field has killed some people, I feel like. That turf is insane. Our equipment manager and our stadium and field managers are incredible as well. So I'm sure they have it covered. But if not, we will see some slippage possibly from Patrick with that ankle and foot area, just because that it's been a thing, especially with the Chiefs. They also have Chiron in Pisces, so it's like almost a weakness of theirs, to just keep their feet as strong as possible. I would recommend every single Chiefs player gets pedicures and foot massages all the time, but that's just me. I'm sure the Chiefs have it figured out. That North Node tonight in the 11th house, kicking that off. Patrick is going to have his South Node in the 11th house. So I think this will also feel very comfortable to him, very much like a leader. That South Node is conjunct Baker Mayfield's Mercury and Sun conjunction. Let's look at that tri-wheel. It's kind of fun. So it's like almost for every placement that I'm like, oh, Baker has a really shining chance here, it's like Patrick just like, nope, I'm going to shut that down. The one thing that I will say is that Baker has a very strong Venus there at 21 degrees Pisces. So if anything, Patrick really makes Baker question his values and his beliefs at times. So I think that's kind of funny to see that in the astrology. And then, of course, Patrick's Scorpio Pluto versus Baker's Pluto and Sagittarius. And then you go down to the 5th house of creativity, also hobbies, lovers, children, gambling, and in this case, referees. You see Patrick's 6th degree Mars and Scorpio conjunct Baker's North Node and Scorpio at 5 degrees. That's definitely just like anything you can do, I can do better kind of thing. Then we go into Baker's possible moon. Patrick does have Chiron and Venus on one side of it and Mercury on the other. So I can only imagine Baker might feel like he's always one step ahead too. Then you get to the 4th house where Baker has his Chiron retrograde conjunct Mahomes' sun there at that 24 degree Virgo sun. So yeah, that can definitely feel uncomfortable as well. His Chiron opposing Mahomes' Saturn exactly, as well as his own Venus, can definitely feel like his greatest wound is stopping him from finding love. Once again, I'm not going to comment on Baker's love life. Just not going to do it. Too many stories. Can't go there. Then we go into the third house and we see how the mindset could be a little bit to Baker's advantage, simply because, with Mahomes' Mars squaring Baker's Mars loosely, Baker having that Leo Mars and having that Leo Mars boost for today's game should be pretty interesting. And I feel like the first half of the game is going to feel like Tampa Bay could do some things here, but I just don't feel like that's going to be the case overall. Going back to the tri wheel with Tampa Bay's chart, the game is on the inner wheel, so that inside wheel. The Tampa Bay's chart is in the middle, and then the Chiefs are on the outer wheel. So if you're following along with the chart, I can probably try to make it bigger. Yeah. I don't know. Some people might have bad eyes. I could also have bad eyes. It's whatever. Um, I do have bad eyes. I don't know why I said I could. I definitely do. I need to get glasses. I'm really pumped about that. Instead of like wearing contacts all the time, I'm going to start wearing glasses and it'll look really cool. So for tonight's game, I know that I usually like to do the signs like that are great to watch. Um, this is going to be definitely a pushing game for Leo energy, Leo signs, and then Virgo isn't really as loud this game, just because there is so much Pisces energy. I feel like it does quiet a lot of the things that naturally are, you know, Virgo's strength, like the details, the organization. Like there's just so much Pisces around tonight that I feel like it could be a little bit loopy, dreamy, escapey, detachy. I don't know how many words I can make up just now, but I do think that it's going to be a less structured, organized game for the Chiefs and a more all over the place, just win at all costs. That's really all that matters. The undefeated title does loom over pretty loudly. Um, in tonight's game in the fifth house is where I look for referees and creativity and just kind of like what's could happen with the gambling scene. For Tampa Bay to have both Pluto and Vesta conjunct the South Node and also Vesta, so Tampa Bay is going through their Vesta return, as well as Uranus there. I do feel like there could be some calls that don't really make sense. There could be some calls in the favor of Tampa Bay, but I'm not going to say that it's like going to change the game or anything. I think it's just there's going to be more calls in Tampa Bay's favor. Going into sixth house of the game, like I said, Libras, I don't really feel like are going to be strong, but I do feel like Scorpios are going to be strong tonight. So far we have Leo, Scorpio, Sagittarius energy for sure, with not only Mercury there, but also Pallas, Venus, and the moon. And be on the descendant. Anytime that's on the descendant, like Kareem Hunt definitely will be having a game tonight. And I think Travis and Kareem both have Sagittarius placements, so Travis could be having a game tonight if he breaks free of that Libra South Node energy a little bit. Then going into that eighth house, Capricorn, with the vertex being at 11 degrees Scorpio, and yeah, I think that 11 is going to be a big number tonight. And then that that eighth house ruled by Capricorn and Saturn, having that like little 11th house Lilith there for Tampa Bay, that could be a little bit of a boost. They could have some key players. Their 11 could be big. And then going into the Pluto at the very end of that eighth house, if you're gambling on Kareem Hunt to get a touchdown, just say yes. Like, yes. Tonight's part of fortune is going to be in Taurus, so I do think Tauruses have a big game, and Tampa Bay does happen to be a Taurus, so we'll see. Aquarius on the MC. I think the fixed signs are loud tonight, so Taurus, Leo, Scorpio and Aquarius, I think, are going to have themselves a time going into that 10th house ruled by Saturn. That 29-degree Juno for Tampa Bay is on the MC. I think there's a lot to be said about how much we can expect that 29 once again to pop out. And then with Pisces energy as well, even though the Chiefs and Tampa Bay both have pretty strong Pisces placements around Saturn and not so much Neptune, but definitely around Saturn, I feel like Pisces energy might be a little bit constricted today. I don't know why, but it's just like, I know that it's just felt a little bit restricted for me. I have Pisces placements throughout most of the decans. So, yep, gotta love it. Going into the 11th house, which is ruled by Jupiter and Pisces, we see the North Node and Chiron there for tonight's game. And then for Tampa Bay, we've got White Moon as well as Chiron, Mercury, and the Sun all there in that 11th house. And for the Chiefs, they have their Venus conjunct Tampa Bay's Sun. Once again, I just feel like it's like the Chiefs are just like, yes, that's nice. I'm glad that you have this here. But guess what? We're just going to keep having that one-up card. Jupiter is also there, and that's kind of buffering out Chiron, so to speak, with that 6-degree North Node and that 20-degree Chiron in the 11th house. So padded, like I said, that interception makes it feel like it's just nestled in there so nicely. But going into the 12th house is where, I've really been saying that the Chiefs are showing that they have a very big spiritual lesson to learn tonight. So if they do lose, it's because they needed to lose to learn something spiritually and to correct it before the rest of their season goes off. I don't see them losing tonight. I do think the Chiefs are winning by at least 3 points and that they will have a back and forth game, mostly because the chart is ruled by Mercury, which is at the exact degree of two men playing chess. Let me pull that up for you real quick because I like to. Because I don't know, and I don't really think that everybody catches every minute of the games or the stream. So this is the degree, two men playing chess, that Mercury is at tonight, and that is the chart ruler. So that's why we're putting more emphasis on Mercury. If you're watching this live, please feel free to chat. If you're on YouTube, I think you can still chat on Twitter. I'm not sure. But either way, I'd love to hear any observations that you may have and anything that you have to say about the game. I think that this game is going to be pretty entertaining, mostly because we've got so much of the young quarterback energy. They are very similar. They've faced each other a lot before. They have a lot of history before Kansas City and Tampa Bay even got them. So this is definitely going to feel like a good back and forth. I don't really see a lot of injuries tonight. So with that being said, if anything, it's like getting enough oxygen, being faint, blood rushing to your head, not like, I don't know. I think I saw some video of a Detroit Lions player upside down. I'm not one to follow along with sports. I just get tweets now because I tweet about sports sometimes. So now the algorithm is so broken. It's like, you like sports once. Do you want 400 sports tweets now? And I'm like, no. So blood rushing to the head, that does seem to be fainting, that kind of thing would be the only main thing for injuries. And I know that I mentioned Saturn just kind of feeling constrictive to the Tampa Bay. Could be the Chiefs too. The Saturn is not going to discriminate against slowing somebody down. Saturn will gladly slow somebody down just for the fun of it. There's been a lot of talk about like what exactly an undefeated team would look like. And I think the Chiefs have been the closest thing to it. I know that there's a lot of talented teams in the NFL. The Chiefs could very easily go back to the Super Bowl and get that 3-peat, and it's with less talent and less players than most of these really high-powered teams have. So a lot of teams have been trying to get to the point where I think it's still streaming. I did something. Anyways, I'm going to redo it because God forbid, just so I know what's happening. I should probably do that. But there's all sorts of ways that the Chiefs have been pressurized and put into just like almost like a hyperbolic time chamber where people are like, are they going to screw up now? Are they going to do it? And it's like, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. The Chiefs are an incredibly talented team. They're an incredibly young, fast-moving team, and they've continued to do more with less. There we go. But for now, I do think that looking at that matchup with the quarterbacks is pretty telling. The Chiefs may have a 12th house situation going on, and they might have that moon, Mercury, and sun all in the 12th house. Tampa Bay also has a 12th house moon tonight. So there will be a lot of spiritual lessons. There will be a lot of things to be learned. And I'm looking forward to all of that. So if you guys have any comments, questions, anything, if this is still streaming, which I think it is, but Restream likes to pop me out of my account and then I can't see what anything is doing or happening, feel free to. But just a quick recap. Tonight is going to be big for fixed signs. So we're talking about Leo. We're talking about Scorpio. We're talking about Aquarius. And we're talking about Taurus. So fixed signs going to be big for, as well as the number 11, the number 0. Okay, well, let's start from, there we go. 0, 11, 13, 22, 29. Let's do a 48. Yeah, let's do a 48. I think my camera is also deciding to glitch out on me. It's okay if it does. Properties. We'll close this out. You guys just get to see me make all sorts of changes. Switching to my other camera. We are back. Look at that. Mercury retrograde is real. Okay, that's the other thing I do want to close out on. I did the numbers. I did the big games. I do think that on top of the fixed signs, I think Sagittarius has a big game. And then as well, I guess, well, because I already said fixed signs. So Taurus, part of fortune, doesn't really do much. Gemini, if there are games, I did say 48 too. Yes, thank you. My mom is here to chime in to let me know which ones I said. So 0, 11, 13, 22, 29, and 48. Hell yeah. And then the signs to watch, the fixed signs, aka Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Taurus, Sagittarius, and then Gemini. I think we'll throw in a Gemini. There is a chance that Geminis feel a little bit sluggish just because the 12th house having that Gemini energy in there, and then the Gemini rising, it could take Geminis to show out later in the game, but it will happen. So thank you guys once again for being here with me. I've enjoyed all of this. I do have something to mention that I will be doing soon. Let me make sure I can get this source visible. Number 1, live editing, folks. Okay, here it is. So the news that I wanted to share on the way out is that earlier this summer, I reached out to Sonia Morgan and was talking to her about a completely unrelated thing, mentioned I was an astrologer, and she's like, oh my God, you have to let me know what you think about my chart. I was like, done, deal, no problem. I have been watching The Real Housewives since 2006 with my mom. It was when The Real Housewives of Orange County came out that I was like, oh my God, what is this? This is everything I thought I wanted. Like, Desperate Housewives just wasn't it. Like, there's only so many times I can watch uptight women obsess over things that they've like put themselves into situation wise. There's too much. But then if you have uptight women in Orange County by a beach and with a ton of money and other problems, I apparently am just dialed in. So the Real Housewives franchise has been definitely a big thing for me growing up. I think, and it's not to age anyone in that franchise or anyone in the Real Housewives in general, I think it's important for women to see that life doesn't stop once you become a wife and mother, and that you can become fabulous and eccentric and live up to your fullest potential later in life with women that are different than you and not your childhood friends, and you can make new friends later in life. It might not always go smoothly, but it'll go. So I'm really looking forward to this series because it's going to be called an astrological profile. And I'm starting in Sagittarius season because Sagittarius are the best. Like, I love them. They brighten my day. They make my life a lot better. All the Sagittarius people I know literally make my life better each and every day. They go out of their way to do so, or they go out of their way to throw me opportunities that are just like, oh, why, thank you. So I wanted to start with the Sagittarius queen, Sonia Morgan, and I got her accurate birth time, so it's not just the one on Astro, whatever data bank it is. So we are going to have her updated, correct birth time available for anyone to follow along with. And I'm going to share moments from the show. I'm going to share moments from her life. And I'm also going to be trying out her Sonia Morgan sangria that I ordered and I'm super pumped about. So definitely pumped about this new series and showing you guys a little bit more of my gifts, because I love sports and I love being able to talk to you guys about the games and like the feelings and the emotions of the games and the cosmic patterns of the games. And it's great. And yet I thrive in personalized astrology and thrive sharing people's magic with them. You know, it's like I like to mirror back what it is within you that's so incredible through your chart and showing you guys a different way to approach yourselves. So that's my thing. If you've enjoyed this broadcast, if you've enjoyed the stream, if you've enjoyed me yapping for the last like hour and a half, good news, I'll be back on Sunday doing it all over again. I'm pretty sure, because the Chiefs are playing somebody on Sunday. I'm kidding. It's probably the Broncos. So I will be back on Sunday to go back over this and talk to you guys about this upcoming show. It does not start until, I believe, November 27th. I have so many things until like coming up before November 27th that I had to think there. So if you want to tune in, awesome. If you're not a Real Housewives fan, awesome. I will continue doing my sports astrology work, and you can see all of that here on my YouTube channel, Northern Astrology. You can also find all of my links and everything in the description below, or you can find me on X or Instagram. I think that's the only two places I am. I just want to make a public service announcement that I am fucking done creating social media platforms. If all else fails, if Twitter ceases to exist, if Instagram ceases to exist, I still have my bangin' website and my YouTube. And those things are definitely two incredible resources because I have so much free stuff on my website, and my YouTube channel is just growing by the day. I find creating and talking through this medium so fun, and it's been a labor of love, and it's also been teaching me so much about myself and what I am capable of as a host, as a producer, as an editor, as a leader, as an astrologer, as a former media person. I'm like learning so much alongside all of you. So thank you for tuning in again. My name is Gracey. You can find me at northernastrology.com, northernastrology@gmail.com if you need me that badly, or you can check me out through any of my social media platforms, but I'm not making any more. It's at North Astrology, and that's it. You guys can find me there. I hope you all have a safe week, and I will see you back in just 6 short days. It'll be like very, very quickly that I'll see you, so please don't have separation anxiety. I'll be back.